I'm gonna go ahead and start. My name is Tiana. I graduated from school last year, and my background is Greek. I moved to Australia in 2015, and that's why I studied EAL in high school. I went to South Auckland College, and now I'm studying a Bachelor of Psychology at Monash University. I will introduce you to Annie, which will be here today to answer any questions at the chat and help me out. Okay. Now let's go through some basic rules for today. Please be present throughout the session and put your mobiles on mute. Try to close down any tabs that you are not using to save on distractions. Please stay on mute when you're not talking. Turn on your video once the session starts, if possible. You can use a virtual background, again, if possible, and use the chat button to ask questions or use the raise hand icon. As I can see, it's not many of us today, so we can have an interactive session, which is good. I will start sharing my screen now. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, can you see everything all right?
Yes.
That's good. Okay, this is my agenda for today. We're going to go through a warm-up exercise in a minute, and then we'll go through the VCAA study design. I'm going to run you through some text response, language analysis, and listening skills. After that, we'll do a summary and questions and the evaluation. Okay, I will start by saying that I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're gathered on today. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across the nation. Okay, for our warm-up exercise, we're gonna play the 3 in common game. You're gonna be put in breakout rooms of 5, even though I think we can even do 3 because it's not many of us. And the objective is to find 3 things that you all have in common, but it can be normal things like age, gender, or hair color. It must be uncommon things like we all went on a holiday there, or we've got a lot of siblings. And you'll be in the breakout rooms for 5 minutes. And after that, I will choose 5 groups, and they will tell the rest of the groups the 3 things they have in common. Hey, hi, welcome back, everyone. I was in breakout room 1. So we're gonna start sharing. Did you want to share the things we have in common, Nicole? We only determined 2 though, but that's all right. We can still go through that.
Alrighty.
So we all determined that we moved to Australia within 5 years. And that we are all stuck in quarantine. All right, guys, from breakout room 2.
Is that us? I don't know if we're 2 or not. I forgot to look at the number.
That's all right. I was in 1.
Oh, okay. So, Azada, would you like to share what we have in common?
So all 3 of us were females, and we all had pets, and just 2.
You came up with 2?
Yeah.
That's all right. Us in breakout room came up with 2 as well, that we're stuck in quarantine and that we all moved to Australia within 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep. All right, breakout room 3.
Maybe we were 3, Azada. I don't remember. So maybe Sakina has to answer for the other group.
Yeah.
Sakina, you have to unmute.
Oh, hi. They said that we go to the same school and that we all like watching movies.
That's good as well. And I think we have a fourth group. Are we in group 4? So who was in that one?
I think anyone who is in group 4 can come forward and say something because
Yes, please.
we didn't pick leaders. And just unmute if you were in a group that you haven't heard the answers from.
And if you guys could turn on your cameras, that would be great.
Yeah. Apart from bandwidth, it's really great to see everyone's faces. And please note that even though this is being recorded, no names go out with those recordings. And so no one will know who you are.
Exactly. All right, I think I'm gonna go through the rest of the presentation.
Sure.
1 second to just share my screen again. Okay. Let me just adjust that. And can you see everything all right? Let me know. Annie, all good?
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah?
Yep.
All right. Let's go through the study design. I'm going to start with an exam overview. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with the structure of the exam, but let's run it one more time for everyone. The exam will last 3 hours and you will have to complete 3 tasks. One will be reading and analyzing and creating text, which is basically text response to one of the 2 texts you each worked on during the Unit 3 this year. The next task will be analyzing argument, where you will be given a text and possibly a response to the text, and you will have to write a language analysis on it. And the third one will be a listening task. In this exercise, you will simply listen to texts and answer some questions based on what you hear. Today, we'll go through each one of these tasks, and you will have the chance to practice and ask any questions you might have. I have included the exact description VCAA provided for you on the website for reading and creating texts, and that is, assessment will be based on an analytical response to one of 2 texts selected from the English EAL text list published by the VCAA. Questions provided will be modified for EAL learners. A text response is basically your answer to a question the examiners provided for you for one of the texts that you studied. However, you should base your answer in your interpretation of the text. You do not have to necessarily agree or disagree. You can choose either one, or you can choose both or neither if you want. You just have to justify your points and show the examiners that you know what you're talking about and you have a very deep and thorough understanding of the text. In order to do that, you have to include some basic structure in your essay. Let's talk about that. It always has to be in present tense. It can't be in past or future tenses. And you have to include 3 body paragraphs, 1 for each of your points, and each of the paragraphs have to be in TEAL format. And that is, T stands for topic sentence. This is where you state your argument. E stands for elaboration. This is where you expand on the paragraph idea. The other E stands for evidence. This is where you provide supporting info, such as quotes from the text. And L stands for link, which is where you link back to the topic. Now, for your introduction, you must reward the topic to show the examiners that you understand it. You must clearly state your contention and indicate main points that you'll include in your essay. For tips, by including a quote in your introduction, you show from the start that you're knowledgeable of the content, and it also further reinforces your contention and draws the reader's attention. And lastly, this is something I learned from experience. The examiners don't want to know too much about the setting or the background of the text. If you can, briefly mention any important information, such as addressing key terms in the question, and move on to address the topic. I've included some topic starters for your introduction here. I have Women of Troy as an exemplar play because this is what I studied. So you put the name of the text or author here, for example, Women of Troy or Euripides, and you start by saying, Women of Troy suggests that, or Women of Troy explores the themes of, Euripides demonstrates, you include a theme or a symbol here, through the exploration of, again, evidence. And Euripides uses, you put the technique here to convey the point that. And you can find this sample introduction on VCAA's 2019 examination report as a high scoring response. Now let's examine what was done right and what you think that could be changed. The topic here was society is capable of change. Discuss how Tom Wright explores the idea in the play Black Diggers. This is what this student chose. Let's go through it. The play Black Diggers by Tom Wright, set in 1910s, explores the idea of change. This is where the student clearly rewards the topic. Specifically, Wright argues that although change is difficult, the soldiers' experiences show that society is capable of change. That is the contention, and they clearly include in the introduction. Wright examines that change is hard because a lot of people around the indigenous soldiers held prejudiced ideas. This is the first point that the student is going to introduce. The play also demonstrates the difficulty of change as the difficulty of changing country as a whole. This is the second point. However, even though change is hard, there are some people who can be changed, which means that society is able to change. And this is the third point the student have included. Now I said, let's see what was done right, because I noticed that there is no quote in this introduction. In order to make it more efficient, it could include a quote to boost their markup. For your body paragraphs, it's important to state one main point as a topic sentence. Be specific and include evidence to support your point, and visual techniques if your text is a movie like Invictus, and use the TEAL format that I talked about before. It's really important to also talk about the effect of the author's contention on the reader. For example, how does the writer makes the reader feel about when he talks about for example, oppression of women in the Women of Troy, and what is the author's contention? I've included some topic starters for the body paragraphs as well. Euripides shows that either you include the character name there, is depicted as, and this is shown where she is. You can take a photo of all that and you can use that. A symbol in the text is which is associated with, and the author's interest in the theme of is expressed through experiences of the character. I have a sample body paragraph as well. Here, I do not need to include the whole paragraph simply because this part is enough to support my point. Let's go through it again. Wright examines the change of society, and this is again from the VCAA, and it's one essay. The introduction and the sample body paragraphs are from one essay. Wright examines the change of society is hard due to deep-rooted racist idea in white people's mind. This is the main point that the student's going to introduce. Using multi-narrative perspectives, this is evidence. The widespread scientific racism, which suggests indigenous people are biologically inferior to white people at that point in history, is depicted by Wright. Through the soldiers' experiences, the racism within one's minds, which is hard to eliminate, is illustrated. Before the war, Bertie's mom disagrees with Bertie, who is willing to enlist, and questions him with, "Do you think the door will be open for you?" Comparing the war to the Naranda show, which seems like a big fancy circuit, but eventually there is nothing, nobody. Bertie's mom reminds Bertie about the cruel truth that the war is not able to bring back hope for indigenous people. Wright suggests that because of all those racist, unfair treatment suffered by indigenous people, all generations have a clear mind that enlistment can hardly change the society. I have color-coded everything here, and you can see the evidence and the quotes that the student uses at the middle of their paragraph, and then the link back to the topic. For your conclusion, simply restate your contention and briefly summarize the point that you presented in each body paragraph. Do not introduce any new points in your conclusion, and keep it simple but inclusive. Do not use the exact same language used when introducing your point, so that's really important. You don't want to be too repetitive. And some sentence starters for conclusions are: in summary, it is apparent that; in conclusion, the reader can say that; and as has been shown. Here I've included the sample conclusion as well. Wright examines the difficulty of change, but also highlights that society is able to be changed through the soldier's experiences. This is where they restate the contention and address the topic again. And the play demonstrates the individual and institutional level of racism as a reason of difficulty. However, society is capable of change is also shown by the soldiers' experiences before, during, and after the war. This is where the student restates the main points. Okay, now, did somebody want to tell me what a theme is? You can pop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself.
Come on, everyone, don't be shy.
Yeah.
The best exam revision series are ones where you just join in and talk. So, great. Thanks, Azada.
Is it a topic?
The theme?
Like it's an idea to talk about or a subject?
Yes, it's an idea. So a theme is an idea or a message that arises from the key elements in the text.
Yeah.
So
Pata had the overall idea. So
yes.
If you use the example that Thiano has been sharing, which is the Tom Wright book, that the overall theme for that would be Indigenous people and the injustice they've suffered. But then there are also lots of sub-themes too, aren't there?
Yep, absolutely. So it's important to talk about and analyze any themes and symbols from your text in the text response. And I've included here some common themes in literature and movies. I think in every movie you'll find one of those themes. So you can either take a photo or a screenshot of that and use that, because it's really important to analyze the themes. We will also talk about symbols. Is anyone able to tell me what a symbol is? Anyone?
Something that's symbolized, like or I don't know how to, yeah, does that make sense? Like something that's meant to symbolize a theme or yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it's either a physical object, or symbols can be through characters or through events, and that material object, scene, or event represents something abstract. So some common symbols in literature again are black color, that symbolizes death and evil; red color, that symbolizes fire, emotion, danger, passion, and love; a red rose, that's so basic and it represents love; a raven, which represents death or doom; the dove for peace; and an owl for wisdom. These are the most basic ones. And why do writers use symbolism? What do you think? Any ideas would be good.
So to deliver messages?
To deliver messages, yes. So they do that to communicate their big ideas artfully, and because it helps the reader's visual complex concept. So it's easier for me to identify a symbol, even if I don't understand it, it's there. And it adds emotional weight to the writer's contention, and it's also easy to conceal themes that are too controversial to simply state openly.
Yeah, and I also think too, when authors are writing, their words are meant to paint a picture. So if you can imagine a symbol or use the symbol as a picture in your head, all of a sudden you remember what that means. It's an analogy as well.
Yeah, that's true, exactly. Okay, I've included here for you the assessment criteria for the text response. Annie, can you see this slide? Because it says my screen. Yeah,
Yep.
You can see it? Okay. So the assessment criteria are knowledge and understanding of the text and the ideas and issues it explores, development of a coherent analysis in response to the topic, use of textual evidence to support the interpretation, and control and effectiveness of language use as appropriate to the task. So for the text response, as I said before, it's really important to support your points. You don't have to agree with the topic, or you don't have to disagree. You can talk about both. You can use a rebuttal if you don't agree, and that will be fine. You just have to support it with your points and your evidence, and just talk about how you interpret the text that you read. So there's no right and wrong answer in a text response. But in order to get the full marks, you want to do all that assessment criteria.
And I think it's important to say too, Theano, is that you're in EAL because your grasp of speaking English is probably not as good as a natural-born English speaker. And the examiners take that into account. They don't mind if you make some grammatical errors and things like that, if the meaning of what you say comes across clearly. So if the content is really the most important thing here, not necessarily how you say it.
Absolutely. And you can see, if you notice, I noticed before, I just didn't correct it, at the sample body paragraph and introduction, which I took from the VCAA website, and these are high scoring responses. So this is probably the best response that they found. There are some grammatical errors and some, I don't know if I can find it right now and show you, but as I was reading it over again, I understood that there were some errors. But the examiners didn't really care about it if they took it as a high scoring response. And as you can see, the exact description that I have included here, it says that questions provided will be modified for EAL learners. So you will not be marked as harshly as the English learners. So you don't have to worry about being perfect.
Yeah. And don't use big words if they confuse you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to language analysis, and I have an exercise for you to do as well in this section. So this is exciting. All right, so again, I have taken this straight from VCAA, and this is that assessment will be based on a demonstration of understanding of an unseen text or texts, an analysis of argument, and the use of persuasive language of the unseen text or texts. The unseen text provided will be modified for EAL learners. Now, for your language analysis task, you will be provided with a text. It can be different types of text, like editorial or a media article, and possibly a response to that text. And you will have to identify the issue and the writer's argument and analyze how the writer manages to persuade their audience of their argument. You will have to talk about the persuasive techniques they use and what effect they have on the audience. For your introduction, you will have to mention the text you're talking about, like what type of text it is, who wrote it, and its title. You will also have to talk about the issue, what triggered the writer to write this text. And don't forget to also mention who it targets, so the audience, the tone of the text, and the writer's contention. I have another sample introduction here for you. And this is an advertorial, which is the type of text. entitled A Better, Faster Shopping Experience, written by a manager of a local grocery store, Hailey Astar, targets local customers, which is the audience, and contends cashless payment is easier and faster, which is the writer's contention, in a passionate tone. Then mention the tone. The visual accompaniment highlights how both customer and the staff will be happy about the decision to go cashless. In response, Samuel Morricone, a local resident, publishes a letter to the editor in the local newspaper to rebut Hailey's arguments, suggesting cashless payments is not beneficial for customers. Here, they have included everything for both texts, but they missed the tone for the second one, and they missed the issue overall. So I've included a brief topic sentence, so like a starter for the introduction, to show you how you can include the issue and make it efficient. And this is my interpretation of how this would be structured. Following a local store going cashless, that's the issue. The manager of the store, Hailey Astar, wrote an advertorial which aims to appease and retain their customers' trust. This is the aim, the effect on the reader, by arguing that cashless payments are easier and faster. And this is the contention, so what I would be talking about throughout my text. Again, this is my interpretation, so that's how I would do it in order to include the issue as well. Okay, for your body paragraphs, you should include persuasive techniques. Now, I have written 1 to 2 per paragraph, but don't do 1. So 1, I don't think it will be enough. Do 2, or if you can, do 3. And talk about what the effect of the persuasive technique on the audience is, and how this helps the writer achieve their contention. Students should avoid explanation of persuasive techniques. For example, the use of inclusive language includes everyone. So they already know that, the examiners already know that, they don't need to know that, you don't need to tell them, just tell them how this helps the writer achieve his contention and what effect the persuasive technique has on the audience. Also, it's very important to include the visual techniques in the text. So if there is a picture, for example, last year they had an EFTOS machine. We had to talk about how this reinforces the writer's point. So it's really important not to skip the visual clues, because this boosts your mark up very much. So the best and high scoring responses were the ones that talked about the visual clues. Here I have a sample body paragraph for you, and now I'm going to go through it. The piece moves on to explore the benefit of paying without cash, and the analogy likens paying bills electronically to cashless payments in grocery store. This, they have included evidence from text. Yeah. Astar insinuates how in an electronic era, when everything is paid by card and paying for food should take the same way as well, because it is easier and safer. They have another evidence here, another quote, sorry. This appeals to readers' common sense, their persuasive technique, making them to be excited about cashless payments' effect on the audience, as it will make life easier for them. Okay. Furthermore, Astar argues cash is becoming an old-fashioned way to pay. They have another quote here. Projecting anyone who does not want to go cashless is outdated in an effort to create a sense of security. So the persuasive technique here would be appealing to the sense of insecurity, sorry, in those audience who are in favor of paying cash, alluding the idea that they are excluded by the mainstream community. And this is the effect on the audience. At last, it targets the old generation who don't feel comfortable using cards, offering an adjustment period for 3 months. Such solution is to include the target audience and release their anger of being left out. Setting the store as a reasonable and customer-centered store, which would take care of every customers. And here, they lastly link to how this helps with the argument. All right, for your conclusion, I don't think you need to use a conclusion, and this was said to me by my teacher, and the VCAA examiners say that as well. So if you have 2 texts to analyze, simply use the last paragraph to talk about the second text. So if you have 1 though, your conclusion should still exist and be pretty straightforward. Restate what some main techniques you analyzed and talk about, and for the audience and the writer's contention again. So I'm going to go through that again because that was not well structured.
So there's also a question from P-Pen. For your intro, if you are comparing more than one text, do you need to include the other text?
Yes, you do, absolutely. I have the sample introduction here as well. Oh, that's the text response. Give me 1 second, sorry. There it is. As you can see here, they have included both the texts, and it's really important that you do so. And you have to talk about the same stuff that you talk about for your first text. So you need to include the type of text, the audience, the contention, the tone, and briefly mention one technique. And don't forget to talk about the issue as well. So here, for example, they have included what the text was and what the contention was to review Hiley's arguments, and that suggesting that cashless payments is not beneficial for customers. They have not included the tone though, and they have not included the issue or a persuasive technique. So if you really want to be spot on and get all those marks, include all those stuff. Okay, where was I? Yeah, for the conclusion. And some tips: never state your opinion on the issue. So even if it's a racist, a sexist text, and you don't agree, you disagree, and it's a really sensitive issue, don't show your opinion, and do not show your emotion or feeling about the writer's view through your writing or tone. Simply just analyze the use of persuasive techniques.
And a good way of looking at it is a newspaper article. So journalists are not meant to show any emotion. They're meant to look at both sides equally and weigh up the arguments and maybe who wins or who doesn't win. Maybe they don't, either of them wins. But a journalist is probably the best way of looking at an analysis piece, because they are meant to take both sides into account.
Exactly. That's a really good way to look at it, actually, a journalist. Okay, so before we go through and do the task I have for you today, I'm gonna go through this. This helped me a lot to enrich my vocabulary, and these are some tone words I used. Every time I practice a language analysis, I identified which one of these words was the most suitable for my text. Looking at them over and over again allowed me to memorize them and use a different tone word in every one of my essays. So I included them here for you because I thought they would help you, and you can take a screenshot or a photo if you like. This was my go-to in every essay I did. And if you do it over and over again, you'll be able to remember them for the exam. And when you read an essay, you'll be able to identify the tone straight away. All right, we'll go through some persuasive techniques now. Okay, so a rhetorical question implies the answer is self-evident and therefore correct, and encourages the audience to supply the answer. A cause and effect links an outcome to a particular set of events and suggests a logical and therefore true connection between two actions. When establishing a dichotomy, dividing people into two opposing groups, a good and a bad group that supports the writer's views and the bad group that doesn't. An anecdote is a brief personal account or story that engages the audience and suggests the writer's arguments is based on experience. An attack positions the audience to think badly of others and therefore dismiss their ideas. And the praise encourages the audience to regard others and therefore their ideas and their viewpoints. An exaggeration attracts the audience's attention through a surprising or extreme claim, especially in headlines. A metaphor or simile identifies a similarity between two different things. Using reason and logic creates a credible argument using strong evidence, and this makes the writer seem knowledgeable and suggests the contention has been well thought and searched, and this leads the audience to trust the writer. When using an analogy, it compares two things to lead the audience to draw conclusion based on similarities. An inclusive language uses we, our, or us to include the reader in the same group as the writer and appeals to a desire not to be left out of the group. When using repetition, this reinforces or highlights a main point or key term you want your audience to remember. When using emotive language, connotations of words that focus the audience on their feelings and people's emotional response positions them to share the writer's viewpoint. And using a cliché is an overused phrase that is quickly understood by everyone. For example, actions speak louder than words. And this reassures the audience through the use of a similar expressions that they already know.
Okay, there are a couple of questions there. So how does analogy differ from simile and metaphor?
Okay, so I've moved the slide. Give me 1 second. So analogy, it basically compares two things and leads the audience to draw the conclusion based on their similarities. The metaphor, it's a different thing. So when speaking metaphorically, you use something, you say something else and you mean something else. I'm not sure how to explain it to you. Let me just find an example for you. Give me 1 second, guys.
Okay, I'll give you one if you like, Fiona.
Yes.
So a natural metaphor would be the snow is a white blanket. Well, we know that snow is not a blanket, but when you look at it and you visualize what snow looks like, they're saying it is like a white blanket. So that's a metaphor. Or her hair was a flowing golden river, suggesting she had long blonde hair.
Okay, so I've got some good ones for you here as well. I just have my book here. Okay, so analogy would be like saying returning to study after a 20-year break is like riding a bike. Like once you've done it, you never forget it. So an analogy is that they compare two things, but when speaking metaphorically, it's not really a comparison. It's more of an artistic, like what Annie said, like her hair were like golden.
Like a golden river.
Yeah, like a golden river. That's an artistic way to say how pretty her hair was. Like, does that answer the question or not really?
Yeah, I think so. And simile is the other thing that we were
simile. Simile is the simile is like using as if and like when a metaphor does not. So it's pretty similar to an analogy as well. So like I said before, this is like this. So they both use like and as if. So I guess we could say they're very similar. So the example I've got here for you is the microwaves coming out of our mobile phones are slowly cooking our brains like 2-minute noodles. Like that, that's the simile.
Simile, yeah.
But it's really similar to an analogy as well.
Yeah.
All right, and what was the other question?
The other question that came up was, do we need to name the persuasive techniques in our paragraphs?
Yes, you do, absolutely. So you have to say that the writer uses inclusive language, and you have to say that they're establishing a dichotomy. After that, you will explain how they do that, but you have to identify the technique. You don't have to explain the technique, so you don't have to say establishing a dichotomy means that you create two groups, you don't have to say that. You need to know what it is, absolutely, because you're going to analyze it, but you don't have to tell the reader. Okay, if there's not any other questions, I'll move on.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. Okay, so these are persuasive techniques as well. I've included all the appeals together. So an appeal, So an appeal to being modern and up to date engages with people's desire to be progressive and in part of the in crowd. An appeal to family values relies on the belief that traditional family arrangements are the best foundation for individuals and society. And this positions the audience to believe that the other arrangements threaten the moral fabric of society. For example, someone who does not value family would be threatened by this appeal to family values. Appeal to financial self-interest is intended to provoke outrage at being exploited or cheated, and positions the audience to feel annoyed at those who raise prices or at those who are suspicious about their motives. An appeal to group loyalty plays on people's guilt and sense of obligation to convince them that the interest of the group needs their support. So if I belong to a group and I don't want to necessarily help with what they're doing, if the writer appeals to group loyalty, I would feel guilty that I'm not helping out. An appeal to justice positions the audience to agree that the punishment should fit the crime and arouses anger in the audience. An appeal to patriotism, this positions people to feel it would be disloyal to their country to disagree with the writer while arousing their feelings of pride. An appeal to self-interest, here the audience is made to feel threatened by the opposition's point of view or agenda. So if the opposing view is threatening my self-interest, I would obviously agree with the writer. An appeal to tradition and custom encourages the audience to resist change and to feel that links with the past should be retained. And an appeal to fear usually works by portraying an extreme case scenario as highly probable. And this positions the audience to agree to the writer's proposed solutions in order to allay with their fears. Okay, so if anybody wanted any of those techniques or all of them together, you could email Annie or let us know in the comments now, and I could put them all together in a Word document and just send it to you. So if you wanted to, just send a message and we'll do that for you. Okay, if we're all good to move on, now we're gonna go through the exercise. Okay, so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and you will look at this paragraph and identify 5 persuasive techniques. And after that, you'll have to each share 1 or 2 with us. It doesn't matter if you don't get all of them. I just want to see if you can identify them and how well you can do that. And this paragraph is again taken from the sample 2020 EAL examination paper on the VCAA website. And this is straight from the language analysis task. I will give you 10 minutes to identify the techniques and then we will go through them together. So if Andrew is here to put us in breakout rooms. Breakout rooms of 3 would work fine again. Okay, is everybody back?
One thing we forgot is that we couldn't see the text, so I don't know how we do breakout rooms and see the text at the same time. I was able, in my group, I was able to bring up your presentation that we had on in the folder.
I sent it on the chat, Annie.
Didn't
it there for everyone?
Didn't see that, but anyway.
Did everybody get that, or would you like some more time to do that again? If the other breakout rooms can let me know, we can do that again one more time. That doesn't matter. We have plenty of time.
We couldn't access it.
Yeah.
You couldn't?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can just do it together as well. So Pat has
Yeah.
suggested we look at it. So I read it out to everyone, or in my group, and then we talked about the different techniques. So shall I read it out again for everyone?
I can do it if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone in this lecture theater knows this. We are, in truth, the most educated generation that has ever lived. Why haven't we done more? What example are we giving in the next generation, and what sort of world will we inherit from us? Clearly, it is our lack of genuine commitment to change that has led us to this serious situation. Wonderful words, glossy brochures, inspiring documentaries are no substitute for real action. We must do more than talk about the problem in a comfortable, air-conditioned conference hall. We must act. What have you and your country actually done since 2000 to have achieved our goals? I don't need to remind you why biodiversity is so important. As we all know, our failure to preserve biodiversity has caused environmental damage and fast-spreading illnesses. This failure has also caused increasing poverty and greater inequality of wealth on a global scale. Poor communities depend on biodiversity for health, nutrition, and crop development. City dwellers, however, depend on forests and wetlands to provide clean water. Healthy ecosystems are vital to control the global climate. Poor people are in the worst position because they depend on biodiversity for their very survival, yet they are not able to do anything about it. Okay, as I went through that, did anybody of you identify any techniques?
It started off with rhetorical question.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see at least 2 here. 3.
And then inclusive language, like we, you.
Yep, inclusive language as well.
Pata brought up cause and effect.
Cause and effect, absolutely. So where did you see the cause and effect here?
I don't know if everyone has audio, which is
Okay.
here we go. We can just cause and effect, inclusive language, environmental damage. Hang on, I'm just reading this.
Okay.
It was also satirical,
Yep.
and there was an appeal to justice.
Absolutely. So did you guys want to let me know where we see those in the text? So where's the cause and effect, as you said before? Anything?
Yeah, if everyone unmutes, it's much easier.
Yeah.
And just yell out. Thanks,
Sorry,
Mary.
it was satirical. It was satirical where they said, sorry, I'm just trying to look at it. Wonderful words, glossy brochures, inspiring documentaries are no substitute for real action. And there was an appeal to justice where poor people are in the worst position because they depend on biodiversity for their very survival, yet they are not able to do anything about it.
Absolutely. You are right. And what about the cause and effect? Does anyone know? Cause and effect. This failure has also caused increasing poverty and greater. That's right, Peter. And I found it in another place as well. So you have correctly pointed that out. Yeah, where it says our lack of genuine commitment to change that has led us to this serious situation. That's also cause and effect. And somewhere else as well. Here, where it says, our failure to preserve biodiversity has caused environmental damage and fast-spreading illnesses. Did you identify any more techniques? I know for sure I got one more.
They also use generalization.
Generalization?
Everyone knows. That is a generalization, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's true. Anything else? If not, that's all right. We can move on and we can see what I've got for you here. Okay, so I have the inclusive language we all said there was. I've got appeal to group loyalty as well. Well, in truth, the most educated generation that has ever lived. So that way the writer appeals to group loyalty and sort of makes the audience guilty about not helping. Why haven't we done more? What examples are we giving to the next generation, and what sort of world will they inherit from us? That's a rhetorical question. And I've got also that the writer establishes a dichotomy when they say clearly it is our lack of genuine commitment to change that has led us to this serious situation. This is also a cause and effect, but I thought it was establishes a dichotomy, because that way the writer attacks the individuals who do not commit to change, and they praise the individuals that commit to change. So they do this throughout the whole paragraph, basically, but this is where I understood that it was most suitable. Moving on, wonderful words, glossy brochures, inspiring documentaries are no substitute for real action. This was in fact satirical, yes, you are right. And we must do more than talk about the problem. That was inclusive language, and we must act, what we have done, and what are our goals. I don't need to remind you why biodiversity is so important. As we all know, our failure to preserve biodiversity has caused environmental damage and fast-spreading illnesses. That's cause and effect, and also caused increasing poverty and greater inequality. And then poor people are in the worst position. That's appeal to justice, as we said. Okay, now moving on, the assessment criteria for the language analysis were knowledge and understanding of both texts and the ideas and issues they present, discussion of meaningful connections, similarities, or differences between the texts in response to the topic, use of textual evidence to support the comparative analysis, and control and effectiveness of language use as appropriate to the task. All right, now moving on, I have a small break for us where I'm gonna show you some videos that very inspiring people from UBS, which are our donors for today, have taken for us in order to give you some tips for the exam. And do not leave the Zoom session, simply turn off your cameras and microphones if you need anything, if you need to get anything or anything else. And I will be playing the videos for you here.
Morning, Skyline. My name's Tim Nolan. I'm one of the regional voice engineers for UBS, working across the Asia Pacific region, and I also do some work in the EMEA and US as well. My biggest career highlight to date? Well, that's probably been relocating the Melbourne and Sydney office to their new current location, being involved with building their new data centres in those locations many, many years ago. Massive undertaking, a really long project, and I really got a lot out of that one. Study pathway to get me to where I am in UBS. Well, I did electronics for my HSC many, many years ago, and I built a lighting recording desk, and I then got an apprenticeship doing my radio and telecommunications trade with Sydney Water. From there, I managed to get my electrical trade, refrigeration, air conditioning trade, and move through to some electrical engineering qualifications. From there, I morphed into IT and then started specialising in voice. So that's how I got from HSC to where I am today. Knowing what I know now, I know it's just weeks away for HSC, VCE for many of you. And I would say the process itself is more important than the mark. Things that your learning is resilience, dealing with stress, dealing with uncertainty, especially with coronavirus, dealing with your fears, your anxieties. All those things are really important life skills that you need in the workplace, because every project, every task, you will be feeling all those things into your workplace depending on the situation you're doing, the projects you're doing, the level of risk that you take in your workplace, and the type of job that you do. So I would be saying to you guys, focus on the process rather than the mark, and allow the opportunities that are coming in front of you to unfold as they may. Well, that's about it from me, and I hope you have a great study week. Take care.
That was Tim. And now let's hear it from Elise.
My name's Elise and I'm a graduate analyst at UBS, working in the metals and mining team. I graduated from school in 2015 and my year 12 subjects were maths, chemistry, English literature, French, history and biology. The one piece of advice I would give to myself when I was in year 12 is just don't stress too much. You will have worked hard, so just trust yourself, trust your knowledge, and everything will fall into place by the time exams come around.
Okay, that was our videos. And I'm gonna give you guys another 5 minutes to do anything you need, get some water or anything. I'll be here for some discussion if anybody wants to ask any questions, but feel free to just mute, turn off your camera as already it is, and then come back after 5 minutes if you want. Let me know if anybody wants to talk about anything. That's a good question. So I have a question here. How did you manage your time during the exam? So it's very important to plan as you go through. So do not straight go into your essays. Just plan it first. Be familiar with what you'll be doing. And when you finish the planning, then start with everything. So to be honest, when I started with year 12, I did not finish a single exam. So I will always got in the middle, but I kept practicing and practicing to be on time. And at the exam, I did it. I was on time. So it's really important to practice as well. What else can you do to manage your time? What happened to me is it's really important to be hydrated, right? But I was really nervous with time and I kept drinking water as well. So I had to actually leave the session and go to the toilet, and that made me act more nervous. And so don't do that. Don't do that, guys. Don't drink too much water. How do you analyze a text without retelling the whole text? I'm going to take you back to the first section as well. Give me 1 second. Okay. So in order to not retell, you talk about other stuff. So you will talk about, I will bring as an example Women of Troy again because I'm very familiar with it. I would not start talking about the series of events in the text, but I will start talking about what Euripides tries to show and tries to demonstrate within his text. So what does the character's actions and the specific scenes actually mean? For example, you have a scene that you don't want to retell. You can use any of those topic starters that I showed you in order to not retell it. So you can start by saying Euripides demonstrates you can use a symbol or a theme in order to analyze and not retell. Through the exploration of blah, blah, blah. It's really important to show quotes. So retelling can be through quotes. So in order for you to show your point, you obviously have to retell some stuff, but don't retell the whole story. That's what I was trying to say. How many quotes? Use many quotes, but don't make them big. So you can use 3-4 quotes, just don't let it be whole sentences. That's really important as well. I should have mentioned it before. I will tell it to the other guys when they come back. So you don't want to have 1 or 2 sentences of quotes. You want to have some words or a small sentence that the character said, but do not fill the whole paragraph with a bunch of big quotes. That's not efficient. So yeah, use 3, 4, it depends on how big they are. Any other questions?
There are some questions, Bianca.
Yes, I answered those ones from...
Oh, you have? Okay. Apologies, I went out and got a coffee.
That's all right. That was the point of the break. Annie, do you have anything that you want to tell the students?
I think the main thing, I don't know how many are listening at the moment, but the ATAR, whilst it's really important, is only a rank. It ranks you against everybody else. And in your year, you know, there may be some brilliant people who are, you know, well ahead of you, and they get a better rank. But the whole thing is that the most important thing is that that you complete year 12 and that you give it your best shot. And you can only give it your best shot if you've worked hard, you've read everything. You don't have to be perfect. So don't go into the exam thinking, oh, goodness, I've forgotten this and I've forgotten that. Because what happens is that you set yourself up for failure. The best thing that you can do is to go into the exam going, I got this, and you will remember things. So if you get to a question that you can't remember things, go on to another one. Leave it for later. The memory will come back to you. And if you can't remember in the end, then just make it up. Be really brave, and think of alternatives. Read the text for what it is. You don't have to answer everything perfectly, but just give it all you've got. I know of students who got really high marks just for explaining something completely different to what was expected. That's the best thing I could say, really, about exams and going into it. And yeah, then, you know, as Katrina said in the opening, the examiners aren't there to trap you. This is not a trap. It's about what you know and how much you know.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you need to remember that it's just an exam. At the same time, you want to work hard, I know, but it's just an exam. You're going to get through this, and when it's done, you laugh. You look back and you laugh at how much you're worried for just an exam.
Exactly.
So I've got a question here. In Women of Troy, how do you analyze integrity through the depiction of Helen? Helen was the one that started the war. She was the reason that the war started. I don't think that Helen shows much of integrity in her character, because integrity is to follow your moral convictions, like throughout your actions. But in fact, Helen didn't do that because she was the one that started the war. Let me know if I'm missing any facts here. Nee, what did Helen say throughout the Women of Troy that shows integrity?
Nee, you're muted. Can you unmute?
If you can't, that's all right. Oh, she did not show integrity. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but I don't know how to explain that she didn't show integrity.
Okay.
Usually integrity is sticking to your word. So if you're looking for an example of how she did not stick to her word, that is the best way to show that she didn't have integrity, or she went against what she was standing for example. So does that explain it, Nee?
So what Helen does is, even though she was the reason the war started, she tried to free herself from the situation. So she was begging. So she didn't show integrity. That's how you can tell. So her actions contradict each other, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Would you be able to write about how she does not show integrity? As in me and then send it to Annie? Is that what you mean? Yes, I can try and do that.
Don't forget, everyone, to, at the end of this session, there's an evaluation of the session. So as long as you do that evaluation, we will have all your email details and everything else. If we don't have your email details, like the recordings will be sent to the schools, for example, but anyone who joins in the sessions, we will be able to directly send you responses. So please, yeah, I'll also type my email address in case anything goes wrong. But
something else to think about, Nee, is how, so as I refresh my memory now, Helen was the one that was begging Menelaus for forgiveness, if I remember correctly. So that does not show integrity, because what she's trying to do is put Hecuba and Paris under the bar. So she's saying that it was all their fault, when in fact the truth is that it was Helen's fault. So that does not show integrity. That shows that she did not take responsibility for her actions.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, if everyone is present, again, put up your virtual hand so that we can go through everything else. Almost.
I think just start.
No worries. I'll just start sharing screen again. Okay, next up we have listening to texts. Assessment will be based on comprehension of unfamiliar spoken text. This is from VCAA again, as were all the others. So I don't have much to say for the listening part of the exam, except that practice makes perfect. Do many practice exercises, and in fact, there are many in the VCAA website. At the end of the slides, I have provided the link as well for you to do that. And you have to really get used to listening and thinking at the same time. In this part of the exam, you have to multitask at the most of it. You will know the questions and you will have to think at which part of the spoken text answers which questions. So you have to be fast and take notes on the sides of the paper, otherwise you'll get lost really easily. Also, be prepared to analyze language. And here will come really handy the tone words I provided before for you. Because at least one question will have another question, because there are subsections, where you'll have to analyze the tone or delivery of language. And you will see that here, because next for us, I've got another practice exercise and a practice question for us to do. If you can all grab onto a paper and a pen and just take notes of what you hear, we will be listening to one section of the listening task of the VCAA 2020 practice exam. So you will all answer those questions, and after that we will go through the answers together. You will listen to it twice, as you will do at the exam. And you'll have a 5-minute break between, not 5 minutes, sorry, a 3-minute break between, so that you can take notes. Okay, let me start with it if everybody's ready.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Sue's Local Stories, where I let everyone know about local events and about what people are doing around town and give you information to help you enjoy our beautiful town. And welcome to John, who has just moved to our town. John is talking today about a problem he is hoping to solve. It's a problem many of us have when we move house, how to get rid of things that can't move with you to your new home. So John, tell us a little bit about yourself and the solution to this problem.
Well, I'd always dreamt of living near the beach, and when I found my apartment with its amazing views, it was too good to miss. My problem is that I can't fit the furniture from my old house into my new 1-bedroom apartment. So I just moved everything here. My solution is to have a massive garage sale this weekend in the front garden of my new apartment.
Now, we should explain that a garage sale is sometimes called a yard sale. It's when people sell things they no longer want from their yard, or, as in John's case, their garden. Many people give things away to family and friends, but sometimes a garage sale can be a quick way to get rid of things.
And I'd like to say that I'm hoping I'll meet some of my neighbours and other people from the town. And of course, moving has been expensive.
Well, I love to find bargains, and I often find something unusual and at a good price at a garage sale. You never know what you might find.
You sound very experienced with garage sales. I'm sure there will be many items to interest many people.
And I can help. I held my first sale 10 years ago.
Great. I've never done it before.
My first sale was reasonably successful, but I didn't enjoy myself and was annoyed by some of the customers bargaining. I remember one woman who offered me $7 for a $10 item. I accepted her offer, but then she paid with a $10 note. If she had the money, why didn't she pay the price that I decided it was worth? It did upset me. For my second garage sale, I realised that I needed to be better organised to plan and anticipate problems before they happened.
Good thinking. I really want my garage sale to be a great success. I'd be very grateful for any advice.
Of course. I'm sure there are listeners who would be interested too. 1, price items for odd amounts. $7 can be easily discounted to $5. That way, buyers still feel like they're getting a bargain. 2, advertise widely. Put an advertisement in the local paper, at the shopping centre, or on the internet. Putting advertisements outside your apartment or house doesn't always work because it can be destroyed by wind, rain, or even other people. 3, help your customers feel relaxed with balloons or music. 4, above all, have fun. So everyone, check out our website for details of John's garage sale. Come and welcome him to our neighbourhood.
Okay, we'll have 3 minutes now to just write everything into notes. And then we'll hear it once more. Okay, let's go through it one more time. We'll hear it once more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sue's Local Stories, where I let everyone know about local events and about what people are doing around town and give you information to help you enjoy our beautiful town. And welcome to John, who has just moved to our town. John is talking today about a problem he is hoping to solve. It's a problem many of us have when we move house, how to get rid of things that can't move with you to your new home. So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself and the solution to this problem.
Well, I'd always dreamt of living near the beach, and when I found my apartment with its amazing views, it was too good to miss. My problem is that I can't fit the furniture from my old house into my new one-bedroom apartment. So I just moved everything here. My solution is to have a massive garage sale this weekend in the front garden of my new apartment.
Now, we should explain that a garage sale is sometimes called a yard sale. It's when people sell things they no longer want from their yard, or, as in John's case, their garden. Many people give things away to family and friends, but sometimes a garage sale can be a quick way to get rid of things.
And I'd like to say that I'm hoping I'll meet some of my neighbours and other people from the town. And of course, moving has been expensive.
Well, I love to find bargains, and I often find something unusual and at a good price at a garage sale. You never know what you might find.
You sound very experienced with garage sales. I'm sure there will be many items to interest many people.
And I can help. I held my first sale 10 years ago.
Great. I've never done it before.
My first sale was reasonably successful, but I didn't enjoy myself and was annoyed by some of the customers bargaining. I remember one woman who offered me $7 for a $10 item. I accepted her offer, but then she paid with a $10 note. If she had the money, why didn't she pay the price that I decided it was worth? It did upset me. For my second garage sale, I realised that I needed to be better organised to plan and anticipate problems before they happened.
Good thinking. I really want my garage sale to be a great success. I'd be very grateful for any advice.
Of course. I'm sure there are listeners who would be interested too. 1. Price items for odd amounts. $7 can be easily discounted to $5. That way, buyers still feel like they're getting a bargain. 2. Advertise widely. Put an advertisement in the local paper, at the shopping centre, or on the internet. Putting advertisements outside your apartment or house doesn't always work because it can be destroyed by wind, rain, or even other people. 3. Help your customers feel relaxed with balloons or music. 4. Above all, have fun. So everyone, check out our website for details of John's garage sale. Come and welcome him to our neighbourhood.
All right, let's have a couple of minutes to structure our answers, and then we'll go through them together. Something I have to say for the listening task is it's really important to look at how many marks they give you. So if it's for 3 marks, that means you should include 3 points in your answer. If it's for 2, you should include 2, and for 1, 1. So that's what it means. And that's a really good thing to look out for so that you know exactly what you have to include. Okay, I think we're ready to go through our answers. For question 2A, give two of the purposes of Sue's podcast. Did anybody want to share with us? I've got the chat open as well so you can type it. What did you get for this one?
They're too busy writing, I think, Fiona.
Yeah, that's all right. I can still give some more time. Okay, I've got an answer here. To make the local residents feel connected and be aware of new residents. And Annie has given her answer as well. Local events and enjoy the town. Anybody else want to share before we look at the answers? Nobody? All right. Okay, so for question 2A, any of two of the following were irrelevant. So to inform everyone about local events, as Annie said, everyone about what people are doing, and to help enjoy the town. So with your answer, Rokia, to make the local residents feel connected and be aware of new residents, I don't think you take all the points. So where do you think you went wrong? Okay, so you said to make local residents feel connected and be aware of new residents. Okay, if anybody has another answer, otherwise I'll just play it once more to see why Orkia's answer wasn't any of the three of Vika's suggestions. Just gonna go ahead and play it.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sue's Local Stories, where I let everyone know about local events and about what people are doing around town and give you information to help you enjoy our beautiful town.
So that's exactly what it says. So to give you information to help you enjoy the town. Yeah, got it? Okay, that's good. So it's really important to be specific. So do not go around what she says, just say exactly what she says. Okay, let's look at question 2B. Give 2 reasons why John is having a garage sale. Did somebody want to share? Yeah, Annie, that's right. That was the outcome, not the reason. Let's hear from somebody who got question 2B. If someone wants to unmute, that would be great. Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Sorry, he's doing a garage sale because his furniture doesn't fit into his apartment and because he wants to meet new people in the neighborhood.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So as Orkia said, old furniture doesn't fit in his apartment, and as Mimi said, he wants to meet new people. Let's see if those answers are correct. So any 2 of the following were relevant responses. He can't fit his old furniture into his new apartment, correct. And to meet new people or neighbors. And also to make some money, that you didn't need to include 3 of them, but they have 3 as suggestions, to make some money or recoup costs because moving is expensive. So it says here that incorrect answers included those that missed the point that John had already moved and taken all his furniture from his old house to his new apartment. And those that said that he was planning to move. That's true. You have to be really careful of these details because you can lose marks from them. Oh, here are the other answers. Okay, question 2C. Explain why Sue felt annoyed at her first garage sale and give 2 ways in which she avoided feeling annoyed at her second garage sale. So that's for 3 points. 1 for explaining why Sue felt annoyed, and another 2 ways in which she avoided feeling annoyed at her second garage sale. Anybody want to share? Customers bargained even though they had enough money. Correct. That's the 1 point why she felt annoyed at her first garage sale. And then the other 2 ways in which she avoided feeling annoyed at her second garage sale. Come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people didn't want to pay the full price. It needs to be better organized and put the price up as customers are going to bargain. Okay, so because people didn't want to pay the full price, that's why she felt annoyed at the first garage sale. And then for the other 2 reasons, we got 1 from Rokia as well. She needs to be better organized and put the price up as customers going to bargain. That's true. And what else? There's 1 more point.
No experience the first time.
No experience the first time. That could be it. Let's look at the answer together. So 1 mark for the following explanation, that she was annoyed when somebody didn't want to pay the full price, as you all said. And 2 of the following were correct for the second part. Being better organized for her next garage sale, yes. Planning ahead, yes. And anticipating problems before they happened. So you didn't need to actually say that put the price up as customers are going to bargain, but you needed to say that she was better organized at her next garage and she planned ahead. And incorrect responses for this answer refer to the advice Sue gave John for the future rather than what she'd done herself to prepare for his second garage sale. Yeah, I think that's what we can see here. When you said that to put the price up as customers are going to bargain, that's advice. That's the advice she gave, not what she actually did herself. All right. Question number 2D. Why does Sue advise John against putting advertisements outside his apartment? That's worth 1 mark, and you need to only include 1 point. So what did you get? Destroyed by the wind? True. It doesn't work because it can be destroyed. That's correct. They get destroyed by the wind or by the weather. And response is other people destroy, yeah, or other people. That's true as well. You can see that it's stated here. Okay, so you only need to include one way they get destroyed. You didn't actually need to say everything. And question number 2C, which piece of advice does Sue think is most important and how is this conveyed in her delivery? So it's 2 marks, and for 1 mark you have to say which is more important, and for the second, how is it conveyed? What did you get, guys?
So her advice is when she says like above all have fun. And her delivery is when she like sounds really enthusiastic and raises her tone of voice.
Exactly. Anybody else get something different? No? No, because that was correct. And there you go, question 2C. 1 mark for the following relevant piece of advice: to have fun, make sure you enjoy it, as he said, above all. And 1 mark of any of the following examples of delivery. So how she stresses it, how she gives emphasis to above all, as he says, and how her tone is excited, dynamic, happy, joyful, and her increased volume because she says it louder than everything else she actually said. Okay, does anybody have any questions for this exercise or the listening task overall, now that we're talking about it? If no, that's all right. So I'll just, does this section take a whole 1 hour? Not a whole 1 hour, but it depends on how quickly you are and how quickly you write and you finish the exam. So it's not just one question as I included here, it's a lot. So to be precise, I think it's 2 sections and they all have 3-4 questions each with subsections. So no, not with subsections, sorry. Yeah, 2-3 with subsections. So it can take up to an hour, but it depends on how well you can interpret it and write everything. Yeah, you're right, yeah. So 40 minutes, 30 minutes to 40 minutes would be good if you can just limit it to the time so that you have more time to actually plan the essays and go through them. Okay, are you guys allowed a dictionary? We were allowed a dictionary last year. Yes, you are. Okay, that's good because you can look up for tone words as well and anything you need. That's really good. I've got the assessment criteria here for you. So assessors need to see that your understanding of the argument presented and points of view expressed, that you analyze of ways in which language and visual features are used to present an argument and to persuade, and control and effectiveness of language use as appropriate to the task. Well, here it says language and visual features, but I think they just copied it from the last one because it's only language use. Okay. Here I have included for you all the VCE links that are really important. So I've got the study design and I've got all the past examination and examination reports here. So everything I got from the sample 2020 examination paper, you can find at the first link. In fact, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just go to the website and show you what it looks like. 1 second. Where can I copy? Sorry. Okay. All right, I'll just share my screen again. There you go. So here you can find, so that's a sample oral and written exam. This is the audio that I used for you. And that's the assessment criteria and expected qualities. So that's the first link that I showed you. And this is the exam specifications for 2020 because they changed them. They actually have a special version for you this year, which is good. Here you can see past examinations and examination reports. This is the 2019 exam, which I actually did. This is the audio zip file, and that's the report. So I'll go through that as well. So in every report, what they do is they write some general comments about everything, and then they talk about specific things that the students did wrong and what they did good. So for example, here we've got the listening task. and they have all the answers for you, and they have what was done right. So this is the relevant responses, and these are the incorrect things they did. So the most common incorrect response, just explain a bit why. So it's very important that you go through that and see what past students did wrong so that you don't repeat their mistakes. Every exam, even though this year, I'm not familiar, how are you guys running your exam this year? Is it 1-to-1 exam or something? That's what I heard. Someone can let me know? Yeah. It's running normally, really? Okay, that's good. So yeah, you will have all the answers here. And it's really important you use that. And here is the exemplar responses that I showed you actually. No, not from 2019, from 2020. I'll show you that as well. There you go. Oh, no, wait. There you are. That's a sample exam. For anybody who hasn't done that yet, go ahead and do it as soon as you get off this call. So it's really helpful, and the texts and are really similar, and the topics and everything. It's exactly like your exam will be structured. Okay, you have the task group as well. Yeah, out of curiosity, have you guys done practice exams? I assume you have, but I just wanna make sure. Let me know. And roughly how many have you done? Only one, really? We did plenty of practice exams, and it's really important that you take my advice at this and do as many as you can, and do many topics as well. If you want some topics for the Women of Troy, I have some to share with you today and that you can practice on. Just let me know and I can pop them in the chat, or just say it and you can note it down. And then even if you do it on your own and you give it to your teacher, you then be able to mark it for you, I assume. Well, I hope so.
I think the main thing is to sit in a situation, time yourself. Don't go out and get drinks in the middle of it as if it was just a, you know, oh, I can practice, I can do this bit later or whatever. It's actually to actually sit under the same sort of pressure that you might get. So you've got reading time, make sure you do the reading. Make sure you take notice of the points that have the most marks, for example, because they're going to be the ones that take the longest to do. Take notes, you know, if you can take notes when you're in there on the back of the page or something like that, so that you can remember things as you're going through. What else, Diana?
So what I was gonna say is, even if it's just you, so if your teachers are not giving you practice exercises or anything and they don't mark it, you can mark yourself, and that's how you learn from your mistakes as well. And that's another thing to do. That if you need to teach yourself, you can. So if you go through and do everything that the assessment criteria say and everything that the assessors have included for you in the study design, I assure you, you'll be fine. So that's what they want to see, and they have given it in precise instructions for you. So use it, please. It's really important. So it's like a cheat sheet. That's it, that you need for the exam. Okay, I'm gonna go through some study tips now. But before, because we've been sitting down for so long, I'll encourage you all to just stand and do some exercises. And I'll leave you to do that with Annie, because I need to go get some water. I'm really dehydrated, and I'll be back with you in 2 minutes.
Okay, so I think the exercise is stand up for a minute and to put your arms out like this, to go all the way around the back and then all the way around the front, and then down one side as far as you can go, and then down the other as far as you can go, and then forward as far as and slowly as you can go. And see how far you can go, and then slowly back up again, and then do it down the back, so arch your back, and then up again, and then swing your arms around like this. Okay, that should do, everyone. Let me introduce you to my helper. So this is Ollie, who only speaks dog, so that's why he's doing EAL. He thinks it's lunchtime, which it probably is his lunchtime. So hello, Ollie. He's a Collingwood fan, you see. Is that right?
Oh, hello there.
This is Ollie.
Hello. How did your stretches go?
Yeah, good, I think. Oh, I couldn't see whether anyone was doing them, but I did them anyway.
I know. All right, so if I rushed through anything during the first exercises, so like the text response, let me know and I can give you some extra help with that, or just let me know what you would like to hear more about. And I can help you with that before we go through some basic. How many past exams did you do? Okay, so during the year, I actually did so many, I don't remember. We did an exercise every week. So even if that was a listening task, so in class we did the listening task, and then our teacher gave us a practice paper to do the language analysis and the text response at home and give it to her. But you also have to think about, you don't want to overdo it. Like you have other subjects as well, and I know that. And what I kept in mind is that, because I studied psychology as well, so we studied this thing that it's called the learning curve. So you can only learn this much. So like it goes like this. And after a point, you can't keep going up. So it's that, you learn that and then that's it. So don't overdo it on yourself. Before I actually did the exam, so throughout the week ahead, I did around 3 to 4 practice papers, but I actually focused on quotes for my text response, because that's what I was struggling more with, quotes. And language analysis I was good at, so I probably did around 2. And listening tasks, I'd say 2 as well. So find out what your weak spot is and then just practice that throughout all over again. And what I did, actually, I want to show you, but I don't have any photos. My desk, it goes like that, and I wrote quotes and persuasive techniques and put them up with stickers so I could see them while I was when I was studying and doing the paper. And that was really helpful for me because I remembered it that way. I memorized it. So that's good. You all get your tips and tricks on how to do stuff and you know what works for you. So it's really important on that last week that you do that. Okay, any more questions before we go through the study tips?
Nope.
No? Okay, I'll share my screen with you again. Just a second. Okay. 30 tips, there you go. Okay, before an exam, as we said, it's really important to practice and do many practice papers and work hard. So read, review, revise, and repeat that. Something else I did as well is I downloaded the study guide. That's really helpful for other units as well. Well, English is a bit more general, where you can't actually go through every topic and then cross it off. But that will help you as well. If you can do everything the assessment criteria says and then cross it out so that you know you've got it, that will help you too. And share the load, that's important as well. I have siblings, or anybody who doesn't have siblings, you can do it with a parent or a friend, or even your pet. I speak of experience. And teach them. So I taught my siblings quotes and what these quotes meant and what effect they had on the reader. So that's how I memorized them. I was a teacher for them. And yeah, so maybe you can have them ask you questions as well, or like topics, and then answer them. But the most efficient for me was teaching something. It's really efficient for you to learn. And it's also important to take frequent breaks. So don't forget, as I said before, you don't want to overdo it. It's just an exam, so don't sit straight for 8 hours and just do language analysis, text response. That's not, you're a human, you're not a machine. You can't do that. Take breaks. That also helps you retain the information. So if you are studying and you go 3 hours without a break, you won't retain as much as you will do if you take breaks every 40 or 30 minutes. For your stress and memory, you need to minimize your stress. But in order to do that, you need to target the reason you're stressing. So if you feel unprepared, prepare more. If you feel that you don't know enough persuasive techniques, learn them all. Do the thing I said with the stickers, or have somebody ask you what this persuasive technique does to the reader, and you answer to them. Like, that's the only reason you're stressing. That's what you need to target. It's important to not do other things to stop the stress. So of course you will find your own ways to handle it, but make sure to not avoid the reason you're stressing and go to the exam and then just freak out about everything that you missed and stress even more. Okay. And also, yes, recognize and accept that stress is normal. So if you didn't stress, you wouldn't bother. That's what I thought to myself every time I stressed. So I stressed, and that's why I became better. I stressed, and that is how I managed to take my level from here to here. If I didn't bother, I wouldn't do it. That's what I think every time. Now for exam time tips. Yes, you want to go ahead and answer the first questions, the easiest questions first, because if you don't know a question and you're stuck, you're going to lose a lot of time. And even with the topics, the text responses, that's what I said to myself, like, do not panic, because you go through the exam and you read the topics and then you try to think, how can I answer this? But at the same time, you have to do the listening task. So it's important to focus at one thing at a time. And even if you read the topics and you don't know any, let's say in an extreme scenario, you don't know any, erase that from your memory. Try to focus on the listening task and the language analysis first, and then go through the text response. Skip questions your answer off, as I said. Please avoid cramming. This really doesn't help you. So if you go to the exam with the book and your notes and just go through that last minute, it's not going to help you. It's just going to stress you out more. I did that for some of my exams, but then for the VC, the end of the year exams, I knew that I couldn't do it. And seeing everybody else there with their notes and everything, that stressed me out even more. But it's not going to help you. I know for sure. It's not going to help you. And you won't remember it better that way. You will remember it if you get a good night's sleep and study the night before. That will help you. And planning helps calm the brain as well. So as I said before, I think I answered the question and I mentioned that. Before you start writing your essay, plan it. So you know how I showed you the till? Do that. So write your topic sentence, then one evidence, then your link. And just simple stuff that you're going to include so that you don't stress when it's time for you to do it. It helps you so much. And some stress relievers. Exercise helps so much with stress. So when you exercise, your body releases endorphins, which makes you feel good. It actually motivates me personally. I don't know if any of you exercise for motivation? Let me know in the chat. I do it and it helps me. I study better after I have exercise. Sleep is really important. I can't stress this enough. Even before your exam, actually before your exam is the most important part. You need to sleep well, otherwise you won't remember anything. And this again comes from experience. Do not stress too much. I stressed today. I couldn't sleep last night. I'm honest with you. And that doesn't work good for you. The only thing that will do to you is make you... Lack of sleep can produce stress. It won't help you focus as good as you would. And you won't remember. Because I'm studying psychology and I will tell you that sleep is when consolidation happens. When you sleep, that's when it happens. So you won't consolidate if you don't sleep. That was it for me. So yeah, eat well and healthy. That will help you as well. And drink water. It's really important, but don't drink too much water during the exam, as I said before. Learn from my mistakes. Okay, let's go through some other general study tips. Yes, get a good night's sleep. Avoid distractions, even when you're studying, especially when you're studying. Turn off everything. So don't do a text response and then say, oh, I can figure this out, so I'll just get my phone and then I'll continue later. Don't do that. That doesn't work. You'll get stuck there for like an hour scrolling and then you'll lose your thought. Okay, now question time. I want to hear a lot of questions, guys.
Everyone's gone to sleep.
Please. I'm here to help.
I think it would be good to understand, how do you deal with procrastination? Jeepers. Okay. That's a really good topic.
It is actually. Procrastination. I guess it's what I said before. It's the stress. For me, it was the stress that motivated me. Like trying to deal with it, and I couldn't just lay down and watch movies or do anything if I hadn't finished my homework and have done everything for the day. So in order to be good and feel relaxed, finally, I had to finish. I don't know if this happens to you. Let me know. Like, can you do it? Can you actually relax if you are not finished with everything. Even this year, it's not just VCE exams, it's all exams and all schoolwork. Like, I feel guilty. That's how I dealt with procrastination. How do you recommend the best how do you recommend to best manage our revision? So as I said, do many practice exams, and it depends. So for the text response, choose one text that you will focus on. That's what I did. Well, our teachers say that you can choose both and then just decide at the time which topic you like best. But I think it's better to be specialist at one topic rather than just know everything and then try to remember. So that's really important. You can do that for the text response for revision. Or for a language analysis, I memorize the persuasive techniques. And if I were you, I'd do many exam papers, as I said before. How many hours do you sleep every day before exams? So before exams, there's no answer. Every organism works differently. So I might be good with 7 hours of sleep, but you might need 8, or you might be good with 6. So it's important to find that out for yourself. Like, how do you feel when you sleep 7 hours a day? Do you feel energized? Do you feel good after that? If you do, then that's the right number. That's a magic number. So sleep 7 hours and you'll be good. But generally, during adolescence, you need at least 8 hours of sleep to be well functioning. I overeat when I stress. You overeat when you stress. Everybody does that. That's all right, but that's not the way to correctly handle it. Everybody has their tips and tricks. So if that helps you, that's good. But you also need to practice and get better at what stresses you out so that you minimize that and like really tackle this where at its roots.
I think Fiona too, that what happens in an exam is you can't eat. So if you've taught yourself to eat when you get stressed, and you get stressed in the exams and can't eat, you will become more stressed. So the idea is to time yourself and give yourself a reward at the end of the 3 hours. So far better to do 3 hours of work and then give yourself a reward by eating than to eat all the way through, because you just won't be able to do that in the exam.
Exactly. Or I've seen those posts that they have that kids have their book, and like every 10-20 pages they've got like a Kit Kat bar or something here. So that's an incentive to study. So like, yeah, if you stress, overeat, but do it that way so that you study at the same time.
And the same with procrastination. Procrastination means that you've either found something better to do, i.e., I see the exam as an enemy. If you see the exam as an enemy, you will go into the exam believing that you're going to hate it, that you are going to fail it, and that you will be paranoid about it. So the best thing to do is to go in and say, this is my best friend. This is going to get me to the other side. This is what I'm looking forward to, because it will get me to university, or it will get me overseas, or wherever you're planning to go in your lifetime. And just do it. It's just something we all have to do to go to university. So once you realize that, the pain is always there. It is always hard work. It is always practice. But once you get over it, it is not an enemy. It is just something you have to do. It's just the way you express yourself. How much do you know? That's all it is, nothing else.
Also, something that I remember now, to deal with procrastination, I had a study group. So I knew that every Tuesday and Thursday I would study with my friend, and I couldn't procrastinate because there was 2 of us I would take down if I said like, let's not do it this week or something. Make study groups. That will help you very much, because not only you won't be able to procrastinate, because you will feel guilty. That's what I felt, at least, like if you cancel it for everyone. and that way you won't procrastinate.
Somebody asked, apart from Gypsy, we'll get to all your questions. I haven't done well in my stacks. Is it too late for me to get a good score? I think stacks is face to face, yeah, and there's a degree of this isn't the real thing. It's like you set yourself up for the exam, and so there's a lot more tension going into the exam than there is at school, for example. So the thing is, yes, of course you can do well in your exam, and the thing is that you have to treat that exam like a friend. This is my opportunity to do better than what I did in the SACs. So what I did wrong in the SACs, I'm going to do better in the exam.
So how it works, because I studied this a lot, because I freaked out and I wanted to know like how much everything matters for me. So for EAL, let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's 40% SACs and 60% the exam. However, because it works in a system, it's really complicated. I'm not even sure about it. It works in a system where your teacher chooses the first one of the class, and it's kind of ranked. So you can still get a very good ADR, even if you haven't do well at your SACs. It's just really important that you do well at the exam. Just keep that in mind. So you will need to put more effort, and that's understandable because you missed on something, so you'll have to do like twice as good at something else. Don't stress too much, because if you stress too much about it, then you won't do good, I guarantee that. But try your best. That's what I have to say. Try your best.
There are a few more questions in there from how do you revise when you are done with past exam questions?
I don't think I was ever done with past exam questions because there are so many, and our teachers gave us some as well. So, as I said before, don't overdo it. So, get through all you have to get through from your past exams and your quotes and everything. And the learning curve. Don't try and do too much that it's not in you're not capable of it, like right before the exam. But I revised by reading through my notes and reading quotes. As I said, I put stickers up so that I can remember everything. I did a lot of paragraphs instead of whole essays so that I could get used to that teal formation. And I revised persuasive technique.
Podcasts, Tiano, for your listening.
Sorry?
Did you listen to podcasts for listening examples?
Yeah. Do you mean as like we did before the exercise?
Yeah, just so that you even like the science show on the ABC. Some of the ABC programs on 621 are really good to listen to because they will often analyse an art show, or they will talk about something that's happened in science, or they will talk about, the global pandemic, or they'll talk about different things in a different way. So they're really good to listen to see what you get from those particular things, and you can write down notes while you're listening.
Absolutely. Also, it's very important that you know what's going on in the world. So they might throw you a language that you have to do a language analysis based on this text that you've actually seen before. Like it might be about a topic that you've actually seen before. So that's really good if you can do that, and if you can read more and be aware of what's happening, that's good as well. Also, you can examine text. So if you read a text on the internet or anywhere, and you say, oh, listen, that's this tone, or maybe they're using this persuasive technique, this will help you as well. That's good revision.
So Gypsy also wrote, sometimes I feel like I'm not getting better at English when I do maths. I can see clearly if I get an answer right or wrong, but English feels weird. How do I manage this?
Okay, because with English there's no right and wrong answers. As I said before, it's clearly about analysis and structure and paragraph formation. So do not try and see, for example, for your listening task, it's easy to see if you have done right or wrong because they provide you with an actual answer. But for your text response and language analysis, all you can do is see if the structure is right, if you have included enough persuasive techniques or enough quotes, and if you are linking back and doing the till formation, if it's in present tense, and all the stuff I said before. And but you can't tell for sure if it's right or wrong. I know that's annoying because your answer is different to everybody else. Think about it as, I don't know how many kids are in Victoria right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say 2,000. No clue. Probably it's many more. So everybody is gonna come up with an interpretation of the text and not an answer. So what you will say will be very, very different than all the other kids, hopefully, or you can have something similar, but there's no right or wrong.
It's your interpretation.
Yeah, however,
what you feel in the heart.
If you do the stuff that we talked about and structure your paragraphs that way, use quotes, use persuasive techniques, analyze them, analyze their effect on the reader, that's how you get the marks. With language analysis, though, there is right or wrong. So identify the techniques and talk about them. So talk about what they do on the reader and what's their effect. Okay. Do you have any advice on how to practice your grammar? Grammar, let's see. Annie, what would you say for that?
That's a good question because English is so much harder to, it doesn't have as much structure as, say, German or other languages. I really think speaking aloud is probably one of the better ways of doing that. And learning, I think, where to put your pronunciations and where not to, where to put your commas, where to put your exclamation marks when you're making a point. We, unfortunately, because we now use mobiles and things like that, we use so many more different techniques than you would in an essay, for example. And whoever has asked this, when you're practicing your grammar, are you talking about it in sentence structure? Are you talking about it as an explanation to what you're giving? Where do you find that you're falling down is probably me asking you the better question, because what's wrong with your grammar? What are you seeing as wrong with your grammar? So Zoom user, whoever's signed in as Zoom user, if you could answer that, that would be great. It's everyone's gone quiet.
Yeah, I think a lot. Give me 1 second. Oh. They've given up on us.
They've given up, yeah. So the thing is, I am, you are, we are, they are. There's a whole lot of practice things that you can do for grammar. And a lot of people do what I would consider as somebody who has studied English quite a lot, the wrong thing, and they'll say, I am bestest at, rather than I am best at. And that comes, some of it is because of colloquial language, i.e., everyone's using bestest, so I use bestest. As long as it explains the content of what you want, the examiner is going to allow that through. So does it sound, like I often say to people doing English, does it sound better to say more real, or is it realer? It's more real, okay? Though, mind you, how can you have more real? It's either real or not real, okay? So you actually have to go, yeah, but I want to explain that it's more real than real, you know, like, is there such a thing? Well, then not really. But in explaining, in writing, that's where your language becomes more colourful. You know, that's when you can start to use similes and analogies and metaphors and things like that to explain what you're trying to say. So you don't have to be perfect in grammar, as far as I know, in EAL, as much as you have to, the content of what you say has to be real, is the most important thing.
Something else as well, guys. I found that during year 12, I didn't study much from the book, but it's really helpful as well. So if you've got any trouble with grammar and even, so everything, text response and everything, it's in the book. Study it. If your teacher doesn't explain it that well, study it from the book. That was my mistake, and it was a big mistake. I started studying from the actual book around a month before the exam, because my teacher always gave me practice to do, but we didn't actually go through the book. It's really important. I don't know if any of you do the same thing at class, but yeah, it answers a lot of questions. And I find that with English as well, you read the novels and you read texts and everything, but it's really important to read the book as well.
You know what would be really good to have at this point? So I don't know which texts everyone has read for, you know, in preparation for their exam, but it would be really good if anyone has any issues with those texts or anything else that we can, you know, answer for you or give you pointers on, which would be really good. Okay, I have two options to pick from for text response, but I'm not sure which one to do. One's a play, one's a novel.
Which ones are they? Out of curiosity.
That's Arazu. Arazu? I hope I pronounced that right.
That's what I said before. I don't know how to pronounce it. And everybody's on mute. Like a house on fire and the 7 stages of grieving. Okay. Which one that interests you more? That's what I would ask myself. Which one do you find more interesting so that you have the motivation to study better and more? Or are they of equal interest? Both equally? Then you could do what like a house on fire and the queen. Okay. You can prepare for both. And then whichever topic you like best, choose that one. And whichever topic you feel more confident in, choose that one. You can still do that. Otherwise, if they're both of equal interests, flip a coin. Not sure. Maybe choose the one that you find more easy. Maybe
yeah, and I think, and there's different techniques for both, but a play actually allows you to examine how it was structured a lot more than a novel. So people get particular parts, and you can talk about particular parts. Like, it's a lot easier to break up and remember than in a novel. That, having said that, they're both, like A House on Fire is written by somebody who moved to Australia, and the 7 Stages of Grieving is has an Australian context as well. So in that regard, you know, you can talk about that aspect of it. So 7 Stages of Grieving, for example, has a lot going for it. Especially, it's been done as like one-woman shows. There's some fantastic evidence on the internet that is really worth looking up to see if you can garner something that really interests you. So if you're really interested in Indigenous culture, for example, that would be one thing to bring in to, you know, why you would choose one over the other, for example, okay? Like A House on Fire and the Queen. I haven't read the Queen. Have you read that, Tiana?
No.
What were the texts that you got?
I did Women of Troy, and that was a play. And that was, as you said, I found that easier than any novels that they threw at us.
Quing, I know you've got to go, but would you send your email address to me so that we can actually send you a recording, and we need an evaluation from you so that I can actually, that's where we register you for getting the recordings and notes.
I think they're gone.
Oh, okay.
But they have they're attending another lecture, as I said?
Yeah, possibly. I think what we could do is get everyone to do the evaluation now, because that's perhaps how we capture everybody. So everyone, we need your evaluation done, because that way we can capture your email, and that means that we can send you a copy of the recording and any notes. And if you need, hopefully everyone has taken my details down, my email address as well. So I have got notes on a lot of those texts that I can actually send to the students as well if they want to email me and say, hey, I'd like some lit notes on the Queen, or like a house on fire or something like that.
And I have some practice essays on the Women of Story that I did. If anybody wants them, you can email Annie, so let me know and I'll just give them to you. I can't promise they're perfect because they were practice for me as well. But I think they will be a good start and something good to have for structure. Yeah. So now the evaluation link you can do by mobile or on your computer, but it does take down all your details so that we can actually respond to you. Yeah. And I send that link in the chat. Yep, perfect. So we'll give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll come back and see whether anyone's got any other questions that have come up for them. No worries. We finished at 1 work, yeah. Yes. Annie, I think we missed some questions, so I think I'll go through them. Okay, so one was, how about Cs and how can this help? Okay, so I can answer that one. Yeah. So when you apply through VTAC for your what you're going to do for your pathway, you know, whether you're going to go and do the arts or science or maths or whatever you're going to do next, Cs is an application that allows you to get extra points given to you based on 4 issues that you might have. One issue may be that you are a refugee, you don't speak English as a first language, you don't have parents who have ever been to university before. That's part 1. Part 2 would be financial disadvantage, for example. May mean that you didn't have a computer, or that you didn't have the ability to access the internet when COVID happened and you missed out on 6 weeks of school. That would be a reason for the examiner to give you extra points, for example, because you were behind in your work. And you need to explain that in the Cs application, and you will need to get references. You might also have a disability or mental health issue, for example, with I don't know, I get anxiety, you know, when I have exams, and it means that I can't concentrate, and I go to a doctor for that, or I go to see a psychologist. You would then get a psychologist to write a report for you that you attach to your VTAC application.
So it's really important that you actually know some of these things, because the C's application itself, which is due in a week after the actual main application, allows extra points in your 8R ranking.
Absolutely. My friend did it as well. She had a medical condition. She had to get a recommendation from her doctor. So she handed it in. I think her 8R got boosted up a lot. And this year, especially with COVID-19, I think that many of you boost your 8R up and get into your course, hopefully.
Okay, so there are a few people who have to leave, which is fine. I hope you've all done your evaluation. Do I have sample topics for Persepolis? Yes, I do. Azada, you're easy to send something to because I've got your details. Okay, so I can send you that afterwards if you like, or would you like me to explain it now?
Can you please do it now?
Sorry?
Can you please do it now?
Can I please do it now? So I'm just going to bring it up first. So, Stiana, are you okay if I share my screen?
Yep.
Hopefully. Okay, so in LitCharts is a fantastic access that we have for Skyline students, and Azada is a Skyline student, but many of you may not be. But for example, we subscribe to LitCharts, which actually gives you a complete overview of the play or the book, etc. And so what it does too when you read this is to give you a really, like a journalist's view on how this book would be read, for example. So Persepolis is about the Iranian Revolution, and I think, Azadi, are you from Iran yourself?
No.
Is that a yes or a no? Sorry, I've got a work site right next to me and it's very hard to hear.
No, I'm not.
You're not? Okay. Because sometimes it's really good to be able to read about, so for example, it's the 1979 Iranian Revolution. If you know something about, if you've got a context like that, then you can actually look back and have a look at what the newspapers were writing about in that particular case. So she talks about the fact that her grandfather was a Persian prince and how he was tortured. So there's a before and an after with a revolution. The before is it was like a monarchy, so it had royalty, and the after is it became a republic, or, you know, it was ruled by a ruler, not a king, if that makes sense. So there's a big difference in the change, or a shah versus a, versus a republic. So there's a big difference in how countries are run when something like that happens. So one is, if you even look at the English example of a queen versus Australia, which is not yet a republic, if overnight we became a republic, we would no longer have a queen. So all that tradition has to be moved, put aside. And so you can start to see how you can formulate arguments about what happened in the Iranian Revolution and what happened in Persepolis. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Was there anything else that you wanted?
No, I just want to like practice.
Sorry, you're really faint for me, Azada.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, just a bit closer.
I said I really want to practice, but I don't have sample topics.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I also have the examiner's questions here, so I can send you those.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll send you the examiner's questions.
Could you also send it to me, please?
Who's me, Humara?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you, and that's just for Persepolis?
No, 7 stages of grieving and like a house on fire.
Stages of grieving and house on fire. Yeah.
Thank you.
And did you finish the evaluation?
Yep, I did.
Okay, perfect. And if you haven't heard from me, just email me and make sure you've got that. So it's Anne without an E, A-double-N, at skylinefoundation.org.au. And I think that is also in those notes that you will have received, you know, in the flyer that came out with all the links. Okay?
Yep.
Anyone else got anything?
Yeah, Annie, Mimi asks if you have any resources on the Queen.
The Queen. I think I would have. The Queen. Sorry, I'm not reading that because I'll stop the share here.
Yeah.
And then I might be able to read the chat. Okay, Mimi. Yep. Anything else for anyone? No?
I think that's it.
So, I think maybe summarize everything that you started with.
Absolutely. We've just got one more from Zara.
Okay.
Can you send her the like a house on fire and the 7 stages of grieving?
Yep.
And I will briefly summarize everything I said today. So I'll start again for each of the exam sections. For your text response, it's really important to think about how there's no correct answer and just say your interpretation of the text, but do it in correct structure so that you get the marks. And that is till, always be in present tense, include your topping sentence, a quote, an evidence, and link back to the topic. For your language analysis section of the exam, you need to keep the structure always correct and do 1, 2, 3 persuasive techniques per paragraph, and then talk about what the effect is on the reader and what the writer wants to pass through. What else do I have for you today? For the listening tasks, it's really important for you to practice and keep in mind what I said about each question and how many marks they have. So each mark is 1 point that you need to include. Overall, keep in mind that it's just an exam. As I said before, don't stress too much. Keep hydrated. Exercise, do anything you can to relieve the stress, and don't worry too much. That's not good.
Worry a little bit. Worry is good. Worry brings up everything and makes you remember things, but worry can also make you not remember things. So it's really important to just believe in yourself, because subconsciously your brain's going, I'm frightened. When I'm frightened, I run, okay? So when I run, I can't remember anything. I can go in any direction. That's what the brain does to you. So the fear response is like you're being chased by a dinosaur. And whilst on the outside, you might become yourself, on the inside, your brain's going, oh, I don't like this. And remember that the exam is not your enemy at all, okay? It's all about showing how much you've learned in 12 years. You've been working toward this. So even primary school was getting you ready for this. Oh, and I know some of you didn't go to primary school here anyway, but everything that your parents would have taught you, all your journeys, bring them in, use them as examples. You know, if you've got a piece on refugees, for example, and you were a refugee, use your experience. If you've got a piece on football and you love soccer, bring it in. Talk about it. Make sure it's relevant, but talk about it. It's really important.
Also, take your mind off the thought that it's the end of the world if I don't do good. So if I don't do well, oh my God, I'm gonna die. What's gonna happen? So there are other options. Your CIS report could be the one that gets you in your course. You can get in another course, and then after that, apply for another one. If you need a really high ATAR and you can't do that, you can do this as well. So if you get into a course and you enjoy it, you will do good. And then if you get the high marks that you need, you will be able to transfer. So it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Plan B, Plan C, Plan D.
Exactly.
Easily. And talk to the guys at VTAC. If you have any issues with your applications and things like that, they're really fantastic. And they talk about always putting the, what you want to do first and leaving it there. So you might get an offer, for example, at number 3 or 4 and think that they've missed out, you've missed out on number 1 or 2, and then you change the order. Or don't change the order. Always have what you want at the top, because they will come back and may offer you what you wanted in the first place. But if you change the order, they won't be able to do that.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's just something that's got nothing to do with EAL.
That's all right. What I wanted to say is that you should also keep in mind how during your exam, you can't care about anything else. Like, many of you might have other problems and other things to worry about as well, but during the exam, just erase everything else from your mind. That's really important, to forget about everything else and just focus on what you're doing at the time. Just make it go blank and only keep the important things.
Yeah.
Because I know that many EAL students, and from my class, we all face different things throughout our years here, but make sure that you just erase it for the time of the exam and don't think about anything else.
Yeah. And if you had an argument in the morning, don't think about it. If you had, I don't know, bad news or something like that, don't think about it, because it's not important. What's important is you, and this is your future. That's it. That's all you have to remember. And we don't all live in a fantastic ideal world, so we're always going to come up against things that are going to test us and try us. And yeah, in the end, it's how you deal with it that is the most important thing. So the idea of doing meditative breathing, or just slow your breathing right down, I tell the story of how I have an illness, which meant I used to have to give myself injections 3 times a week. And I, from a little child, always hated injections. And this was a life-saving injection, so I had to give it within a 2-hour span to make it effective every time. And in that 2 hours, I would wait till the last second of the last minute of the 2 hours to give the injection, because it hurt so much. And in the end, it took me a year, but in the end I went, you know what, it's going to hurt me at the beginning as much as it's going to hurt me at the end. And I then just gave it at the beginning, and it was so much easier. I just didn't worry about it. I just recognized that I will have pain no matter what. So why was I putting myself through all this stress for that reason? So yeah, there are so many weird things that the brain does, and the chatter in your head will confuse everything. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I'm not loved. All those things. Chatter, chatter, chatter. And it's got nothing to do with what you really are, which is a fantastic, intelligent brain that all you have to do is show that that's what you've got. That's it. How's that for a story, Diana?
That's good. As Annie said, what do I want to say?
Completely confused you now.
But it will come to me.
Exam, pass on, go to the next question, it'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so has everyone got my email address? Just put your thumbs up, your reaction thing, please. That would be really good. Beautiful, Mimi, thanks. Azada's got it anyway. Myra, Curtin, yes. Thank you. Zara, Pata, Jeremy, everyone.
No. In the
Okay.
chat. Yep.
Fantastic. No, I don't think so. Okay, Anne at skylinefoundation.org.au. Okay, so as I said, if you have done the evaluation, your emails will be in there, and I will get your emails. But just in case something goes wrong, you've mistyped it or something like that, if you've got my email, just contact me and I will send you what you need. Okay. So we can send you the links to the VCAA. We can send you the recordings. Usually take about 24 to 48 hours for them to collect, and then we'll send you the link to those recordings. But we can certainly send you the VCAA recordings. We can send you notes if you need the notes, etc., etc. Okay.
I can send you some of the practice essays I did so that you see the structure and everything.
Yep.
And anything else that you might need from me, let Annie know, and I'm more than happy to help you out.
Yep. Okay, I think we can leave 5 minutes early if you want.
Anybody else has any questions or something they want to talk about? Even if it's just discussion for a general thing. I remember I know. I remember what I wanted to say. You need to own it. So once you realize that, you know, this is something that I have to do and I can't get out of it, so I have to do good, that's when you will actually get your mind to it and just do it. Because what I used to do is I used to stress so much, oh, I don't want to do this and this is so stressful. But once you realize that you have to do it, as you said, Annie, you have to do it, so I might as well just be good and do good and just get it done.
Yeah, you put yourself through an awful lot of pain and that's what procrastination does too. Sometimes it's like, I just don't want to do it, you know, I'm bored, blah, 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 blah. Oh, there you are. There's Azada's just asked you what study score you got for EAL.
EAL, so I had to correct Jane before, where she said I got a perfect score. I didn't get a 50. A 50 I got for Greek language, and for EAL I got a 42.
There you are. Which is pretty damn good anyway.
Yeah.
But again, the one of the weird things that the human brain does is that you start from a beginning, like and examiners do it. So when I examine somebody, for example, I'll start at 100 and work backwards. Most examiners start at 50 and work upwards. So, and most brains do that too. Most brains start with, I'm a failure, or I don't know, or whatever that fear response is, or I don't like exams, or whatever we put up in our way is the barrier that we have to cross. Whereas if you go, I have done the best possible, I've done all the reading, I've done all the practice exams, I've done it twice, I've done it 3 times, really, it's all in there. And once you realize that, you need to learn to relax and work with what you've got, okay? So your brain in the back of it is sending you all these mixed signals and you don't even know it's trying to sabotage you, and it is. Okay?
Absolutely.
Any other questions? No. Thank you so much. Tata, it was lovely to have you here.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. And all the best.
And good luck with exams. And as I said before, I'm here for any questions you might have. Just let Adi know.
Yep.
you all for
We're
attending.
all here. Exactly.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.